Diana stood at the edge of the rooftop, her fingers gripping the railing so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The city sprawled beneath her, its twinkling lights blurring into a sea of neon. But it wasn't the view that held her attention. It was the man in the alleyway below, her brother. She hadn't seen him in 5 years, not since he disappeared without a trace. And now, here he was, standing in the shadows, waiting for her. He hadn't spoken a word, just watched her, his face obscured by the darkness. She could feel her pulse quicken, the adrenaline flooding her veins, but the decision before her was like a boulder lodged in her chest. She could turn her back, pretend she'd never seen him, and walk away. She could forget everything, or she could confront him, demand answers for the years of silence, and face whatever it was he was about to reveal. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, an alert, another opportunity, a chance for the career breakthrough she'd been working toward her entire life. Her dream job was within reach, but now, with him standing there, her focus wavered. The stakes had just changed. Could she afford to take a risk in both her personal and professional life at once? The city noise faded into a low hum. She inhaled, her breath shaky. One decision, one moment. She had come this far, surviving betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. But would this be the final test? Would confronting her brother shatter the fragile stability she had built? Or would it offer the answers she had been longing for? The weight of it pressed down on her. She had no choice. She had to choose. Diana hadn't asked for this life. In fact, she'd done everything in her power to keep her head down, to make her way through the world without rocking the boat. She had a plan. Get the degree, climb the corporate ladder, secure her future. She was good at it. She was better than most. But somewhere between the long hours, the meetings, and the carefully calculated decisions, she had lost something crucial. Herself. Her apartment was sparse, organized to the point of coldness. There were no unnecessary comforts, no traces of personal touches. It was functional, much like the life she had built. Her job as a project manager at a high-powered consulting firm demanded precision, deadlines, and results. Diana thrived in that world, until it began to drain her, piece by piece. There was always another project, another report, another pitch to refine. She had mastered the art of control, of doing things by the book, and it had gotten her far. But lately, she felt the walls closing in. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She had wanted more. When she first joined the firm, she had dreams of shaking up the industry, of being the woman who broke the glass ceiling. But now, the competition felt like an insurmountable mountain, one that was built on corporate betrayals, backroom deals, and quiet compromises. She had learned quickly to keep her head down, her instincts sharp, but never too sharp. Being too ambitious could get you hurt in a world where loyalty was fleeting, and alliances were often forged with knives hidden behind backs. Despite her success, Diana was lonely. Her social circle had dwindled to a few acquaintances, colleagues who admired her work ethic but never quite understood the woman behind the spreadsheets. But there was something else, something far more personal, that gnawed at her. Her family, her brother, Michael, had disappeared years ago, leaving a void in her life that no career success could fill. She never spoke about it to anyone. He had simply vanished, leaving only questions and a trail of unanswered calls. Yet there was always a part of her that wondered, was he alive? Did he need her? Now, with the unexpected appearance of Michael and the looming offer for a new job, Diana was forced to reckon with the past she had buried and the future she had been relentlessly working toward. The intersection of these two paths was coming, and she wasn't sure which one she was ready to walk. The conference room was pristine, as it always was. The walls were lined with abstract art, the long glass table polished to a mirror-like finish. Diana sat at the head, her mind focused on the quarterly presentation she was about to give. Everything was ready. Numbers, projections, strategies. All she had to do was present the perfect pitch, and the promotion would be hers. A steady climb, just as planned. But as the doors swung open and her colleague, Greg, entered the room with a folder in his hand, something shifted in the air. Diana had always trusted Greg. He was the kind of colleague who had her back, a loyal partner in the cutthroat world of corporate consulting. They'd spent countless late nights brainstorming, making each other laugh during stressful moments, and sharing the occasional drink after a long week. Today, however, he wasn't the same Greg. His eyes, usually warm and honest, were shrouded in something darker. A faint look of guilt tugged at his lips, and Diana's stomach twisted. "Greg?" she asked, her voice faltering despite herself. He set the folder down in front of her with a quiet thud. "I need to talk to you." Before she could say anything else, he slid the folder toward her, and her gaze fell on the printed documents. At first, the words didn't make sense. Numbers, percentages, names. But then, it hit her. It was a leaked report. An internal proposal she had worked on for months. The proposal she had presented to the board in the last meeting. She felt a cold wave rush over her. "What is this?" she whispered, her hands trembling slightly as she ran them over the pages. Greg didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked away, his expression pained before he finally spoke. "I didn't want you to find out this way. But they've already made a decision." The weight of his words slammed into her. The higher-ups. Diana's own proposal had been stolen. A portion of it, her hard work, her ideas, had been given to a competitor, and they were going to present it as their own. Greg had been the one to leak the information. Greg, the man she had trusted most. Her pulse hammered in her ears, and a wave of nausea curled in her stomach. She couldn't breathe. You did this?" she managed, her voice sounding foreign in her own ears. "I'm sorry," Greg muttered. "I didn't want this for you, but I needed to stay in the game. They promised me." The betrayal hit harder than any knife ever could. Greg, the one person she'd trusted, had sold her out for his own gain. The people she'd been loyal to, the systems she'd devoted herself to, had turned on her in an instant. She had worked so damn hard, believing in the company, believing in the people around her. But it was all a lie. For the first time, Diana understood the true meaning of betrayal. It wasn't just the loss of a friendship. It was the shattering of everything she had built. The world she had carefully constructed was slipping through her fingers. The pain wasn't just from Greg's actions. It was from the realization that she had been blind to the system she had placed so much faith in. And now, it was taking everything from her. She stood up, her body trembling. "I'll handle it myself," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside. She turned away from Greg, the feeling of loss heavy in her chest. It was more than just a job now. It was a wake-up call. She had to decide what she was willing to lose, what she was willing to sacrifice. Diana spent the next few days in a haze, pacing the sterile halls of her office, staring at the cold blueprints on her desk. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages, her inbox flooding with demands, but none of it mattered. She felt disconnected, numb to the very world she had once dominated. The betrayal from Greg, the manipulation by the company, it all weighed heavily on her. She sat in her car one evening, the city lights glimmering in the distance, as the weight of the decision ahead crushed her. She had been loyal to this company, fought for it, built her life around it. But now, with everything exposed, she realized how little loyalty had ever been returned. Greg's words echoed in her mind. I needed to stay in the game. Her eyes fell to the folder on the passenger seat. The proposal, her ideas, her career, all of it had been taken from her. The promotion that had once seemed so close was now a distant dream, tainted by the deceit that had clouded her vision. Diana's heart ached, but deep down, she knew that this was her turning point. The stable path she had walked for so long was no longer an option. She could stay, fight the battle that had already been lost, and watch herself slowly drown in a system that no longer valued her. Or she could leave, start fresh, take a risk. The latter terrified her. It meant walking away from everything she had worked for, but it also meant reclaiming her integrity, her independence. She looked out the window, the streetlights reflecting in her eyes like a promise. Her phone buzzed again, but this time she didn't check it. Diana pulled out the proposal and crumpled it in her hands, her decision clear. She wasn't going to fight for a place in a system that had already decided her fate. It was time to move on. The risks were immense, but it was the only choice that felt right. The future was uncertain, but she would create it on her own terms. Diana's hands shook as she signed the lease for the small office space. The building was nothing more than a rundown industrial unit, tucked away in a part of town that most people avoided. But to her, it was a symbol of freedom, a new beginning. This wasn't going to be easy. It was going to take everything she had, and then some. But this was hers. No more corporate politics. No more backstabbing colleagues. No more pretending to be part of a system that didn't care about her. She had spent weeks researching, planning, and drawing up a business model. The company she would build from the ground up would focus on innovative, ethical consulting for mid-sized companies, something the corporate world had long ignored. Small companies, often overlooked, needed the kind of visionary guidance she had to offer, but they also needed honesty, integrity, and transparency, all things missing in the world she had just left behind. Starting with just herself, Diana worked tirelessly in the cramped office. Every day, she was a one-woman show, researching potential clients, drafting proposals, handling all the administrative tasks, and pitching her new vision to anyone who would listen. The process was slower than she had anticipated, and the financial strain was immediate. Savings were dwindling, and the pressure of keeping the business afloat was suffocating. She spent nights alone in the office, falling asleep at her desk, her head spinning with the weight of 1,000 decisions. But there was something invigorating about the struggle. This was hers. There was no more pretending to be satisfied with a paycheck that came with strings attached. Diana had been forced into this new life, but now she realized it was the life she had always been meant for. It wasn't easy. It was a daily grind, filled with rejection and frustration. But every small victory felt like a triumph. Each email response, every inch of progress, was a step closer to creating something that could stand on its own. The first real breakthrough came when Diana received a call from Julian, a tech entrepreneur who had heard about her new venture through word of mouth. He had seen her work during her corporate years and admired her ability to streamline operations and develop innovative strategies. The tech world was notorious for its ruthlessness, but Julian wanted something different, someone who could offer more than just buzzwords and empty promises. "I believe in what you're trying to do," he said on the phone. "We're building something new at my company, and I think you could help us take it to the next level." That conversation led to Diana's first contract. It wasn't huge, but it was proof that her vision could be realized. She jumped into the project with both feet, pouring her heart into every detail. Julian's company, a small but rapidly growing tech startup, needed someone who could navigate the complexities of scaling without losing the core values that had made them successful. Diana helped them refine their operations, streamline their business model, and implement strategies for sustainable growth without sacrificing their integrity. The results were undeniable, and Diana's reputation began to grow. But as her success started to build, so did the challenges. The more clients she gained, the more pressure she faced. Every deal brought with it new financial risks. Diana had learned quickly that running a business was nothing like working as an employee. There were no safety nets. One bad move, one wrong turn, and it could all come crashing down. And yet, she pushed forward. Her nights were spent working on proposals and crunching numbers, while her days were filled with meetings, client calls, and strategy sessions. She didn't have a team yet, but she was determined to get there. There were moments when doubt crept in, when the weight of it all felt like too much. She would remember the betrayal, the way Greg had sold her out, and it would fuel her to keep going. This was her fight now. She was building something that no one could take from her. As she continued to work, Diana met another key ally, Anna, a marketing expert who had recently left her corporate job as well. Anna had an energy and creativity that Diana admired, and the two of them quickly became partners in both business and vision. They worked together to refine their brand, build a marketing strategy that resonated with their target audience, and develop partnerships with other like-minded entrepreneurs. Their first year was a struggle, full of sleepless nights and financial uncertainty, but they persisted, pouring their energy into building a foundation that was solid, sustainable, and true to their values. With every small victory, every contract they secured, they grew stronger. Still, the risks were undeniable. They had so much to lose, and the world outside their small office felt like a constant reminder of the mountain they were trying to climb. Would their vision resonate enough to grow into a full-fledged business, or would they fall victim to the same pressures and compromises they had once faced in the corporate world? Diana couldn't know for sure, but what she did know was this. She was no longer running from something. She was running towards something, and this time, she would be the one in control. The first few months after Diana launched her consulting firm were a whirlwind of late nights, countless pitches, and long hours in her tiny office. Slowly, things started to gain momentum. Small but steady contracts came in, and word began to spread about her unconventional, honest approach to consulting. Her client list, though modest, was growing. The phone calls became more frequent, and with every deal, her confidence grew. But the climb wasn't without its setbacks. It started with the email from Erica Lawson, the COO of a major rival consulting firm. Erica had been a former colleague of Diana's, a corporate strategist who was known for her cutthroat approach. Her firm, one of the biggest players in the market, had a reputation for stealing ideas and offering hollow cookie-cutter solutions. Diana had heard rumors about their tactics, how they preyed on smaller emerging firms, swallowing them up with aggressive offers. Now, Erica was coming for her. "I hear you've been making a name for yourself," Erica's email began, dripping with fake cordiality. "But I'd advise you to be careful. The market's a small place. It's not easy competing with the giants." Diana's heart sank as she read the message. The thinly veiled threat was clear. Erica wanted to crush her before she gained too much traction. It was more than just a competitor's warning. It was personal. Erica had always resented Diana's ability to rise through the ranks without stepping on others, and now that Diana was building something of her own, Erica wanted to remind her that she was still in control. For a moment, Diana felt a twinge of doubt. Could she really compete with a company like that? They had more resources, more influence, and a team of experts behind them. Was she simply deluding herself, thinking she could make it on her own? But as the doubt settled in, a fire ignited within her. She wasn't going to let someone like Erica, someone who played by the rules of manipulation and greed, define her journey. Diana had already built something from nothing, something that represented everything she valued: honesty, integrity, and authenticity. She wasn't going to let it slip away just because a corporate shark wanted to eat her alive. The next few weeks were tough. A few deals fell through, and there were moments when Diana wanted to throw in the towel. But through every setback, she leaned on the small but dedicated team she had begun to build. Anna continued to be her rock, offering creative strategies, while Julian, the tech entrepreneur who had first believed in her vision, offered constant encouragement. Every time she stumbled, Diana reminded herself why she was doing this. She was doing it for the clients who didn't want to be another number in a corporate machine, for the small businesses that deserved real solutions. She couldn't let Erica's world swallow her again. The only way forward was to keep moving. The breakthrough came when Diana's firm landed a contract with Stratus Tech, a fast-growing software company that had just secured Series B funding. The company had been struggling with internal inefficiencies, which had started to affect their growth. They needed someone to streamline their operations without sacrificing their innovative spirit. Diana and Anna had spent weeks crafting a proposal that emphasized Stratus's need for both efficiency and creativity, a rare combination in the consulting world. When the call came through, Diana was stunned. Stratus had decided to move forward with her. The contract wasn't huge by industry standards, but it was a win that solidified everything Diana had worked for. It meant credibility. It meant that they were no longer the underdog fighting for attention. It was proof that their vision was not only valid, but highly sought after. "This is it," Anna said, her voice full of excitement as they celebrated in the tiny office. "This is going to open so many doors for us." Diana couldn't help but smile. The weight of the last few months, the doubt, the fear, the sleepless nights had all led to this moment. Stratus wasn't just any client. They were the type of company that could propel her firm into the spotlight, making it impossible for rivals like Erica to ignore. The next few weeks were a blur of intense work. Diana and her team dove into Stratus's operations, fine-tuning processes, and implementing systems that would set them up for success. The results were immediate. Stratus saw an increase in productivity, improved team morale, and a clearer path for scaling. Word spread, and soon Diana was being approached by other companies with similar needs. Her inbox filled with opportunities. Her phone buzzed with offers. But most importantly, Diana felt the undeniable sense of validation. She had made the right choice by leaving the corporate world behind. The risk had paid off. For the first time in years, she could finally breathe. The future was no longer uncertain. It was hers to create. The world was starting to recognize her expertise, and she wasn't just another cog in the machine anymore. She was the one calling the shots. The email landed in Diana's inbox on a Friday afternoon as she sat in her office reviewing the final draft of a new proposal for a potential client. She expected it to be routine, another business request, but instead it was a notification from a prominent business publication. The headline in the email read, "Rising Star or Corporate Ghost," inside the dubious practices of Diana Garrison's new firm. Diana's heart dropped as she clicked open the email and scanned the article. The piece was a direct hit, an attack on her credibility, her business practices, and her ability to deliver results. It claimed that Diana's firm had relied heavily on the intellectual property of other companies, insinuating that she had used confidential information from her corporate past to fuel her success. Worse, it suggested that she had leveraged insider knowledge to undercut competitors and secure her first major contracts. As Diana read on, she could feel her blood boil. The accusations were entirely unfounded. The article was riddled with half-truths and vague allusions, twisting her achievements into something dishonest. There were even quotes from anonymous sources, people claiming to be former colleagues, implying that Diana had crossed ethical lines in her rise to success. But as she dug deeper, it became clearer. This wasn't just a random smear, it was a well-planned attack. Erica Lawson's fingerprints were all over it. Diana had known this day might come. Erica had been watching her success from the sidelines, and now, threatened by Diana's growth and influence, she had launched a full-scale campaign to discredit her. The article was just the first move. The media attention snowballed quickly. Within days, other outlets picked up the story. Social media was ablaze with speculation and judgment. Even some of Diana's clients began to express doubts, pulling back or asking for reassurances. Her firm's hard-earned reputation was suddenly on the line, and the public scrutiny threatened to undo everything she had worked for. Diana sat back in her chair, stunned. The doubts that had once simmered beneath the surface now threatened to overwhelm her. How could she fight back against this? How could she prove her integrity when someone like Erica had the resources to manipulate public opinion so easily? Diana had always been underestimated by those who couldn't see beyond their own ambition. But now, it felt like the world was judging her before she could even speak. Her phone buzzed, and Anna's voice came through. "Diana, have you seen the article? They're going after you hard." Diana closed her eyes, taking a steadying breath. "I know. Are you okay?" "No," Diana admitted, her voice tight. "But I'm not giving up." The truth was, this wasn't just about defending her name. It was about the entire vision she had fought so hard to build. The company, the integrity, the people who believed in her. Erica had no idea what Diana was capable of. Diana knew she couldn't face this alone. She called an emergency meeting with her team that afternoon. As they gathered in the small office, she could feel the tension hanging in the air. They had worked tirelessly to get here, and now their success was under attack. But Diana wasn't about to let this smear campaign destroy them. "Listen," she began, her voice steady but filled with resolve. "This isn't about proving the lies wrong, it's about standing by the truth. What we've built is real. We know what we're doing, and we're not backing down. Not for Erica, not for anyone." Anna, ever the optimist, nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "We've worked too hard to let them tear us down." Diana's gaze swept over the room. Her team had become her second family, and in moments like this, she saw the loyalty and trust they had in her vision. They weren't afraid of Erica's tactics. They weren't afraid of the public backlash. They were afraid of losing what they had worked so hard to create. But Diana wouldn't let that happen. "We'll handle this with integrity. We'll fight back with our work. Let the results speak for themselves," Diana said firmly. "We've made an impact, and we will continue to make an impact. This company is more than just a business. It's a movement, and nothing, not even Erica, can take that away from us." The room fell silent for a moment before Anna spoke up again. "What do you need from us?" Diana smiled, a fierce confidence filling her chest. "I need you to keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay true to our mission. We'll handle the rest. Erica has underestimated us, and that's going to cost her." Her team rallied around her. There was no hesitation, no questioning. They were in this together. And Diana knew that with their support, they would weather the storm. The plan was simple. Rather than retaliate with anger, Diana would double down on her mission. They would continue to deliver exceptional results for their clients. The more Erica tried to tear them down, the more Diana would rise. In the face of adversity, Diana's leadership shone brighter than ever. She didn't have to stoop to Erica's level. The truth had always been on her side, and she was willing to fight for it, not out of vengeance, but because she believed in what she had built. Her mission would not be silenced by lies. The real strength of her company lay in its foundation, and it would stand firm. The confrontation with Erica was inevitable. After weeks of media attacks and mounting pressure, Diana called for a meeting, a face-to-face with her rival. The setting was a neutral one, a high-end restaurant that neither side could dominate, but the tension in the air was palpable as Diana stepped into the private room, where Erica was already waiting. Erica looked as poised and confident as ever, her sharp suit a symbol of the corporate world she thrived in. Diana, however, was different. There was a quiet intensity in her eyes, a resolve that came from years of climbing the ladder, only to be torn down by those who feared what she could accomplish. "So, this is it," Erica said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. "You came here to beg for mercy?" "No," Diana said, standing tall. "I'm here to remind you of who I am and what my company stands for." The air between them crackled with the weight of their history. Diana had never been the type to fight in the traditional sense. She wasn't a schemer like Erica. Her strength was in her work, her vision, and her commitment to integrity. Erica had relied on manipulation, sabotage, and greed. It was time to show the world who was truly in control. "I didn't steal anyone's ideas," Diana continued, her voice steady. "I didn't climb to the top by stepping on others. I built something real, something that people believe in. Your lies might have worked for a while, but they'll be exposed for what they are." Erica's face hardened. "You really think people care about integrity? In this world, it's power that matters, and I still have more of it than you." Diana didn't flinch. "You don't get it. I don't need power. I've already built something more valuable, something that lasts. You see, that's your problem. You think success is about control. It's not. It's about creating something meaningful." The words stung, and for the first time, Diana saw a crack in Erica's armor. The confident, untouchable persona slipped, and for a moment, Diana glimpsed the vulnerability beneath. Erica had built her empire on manipulation, but she didn't have the authenticity or vision that Diana did. The power dynamics shifted in that instant. Diana didn't need to defeat Erica outright. She had already won. She had proven that integrity and passion could triumph over manipulation and fear. The following weeks passed in a blur of press releases, interviews, and legal battles. Erica's smear campaign collapsed under the weight of its own falsehoods. Diana's team worked tirelessly, responding with transparency and honesty, proving beyond a doubt that their firm was built on solid ground. As the truth surfaced, Erica's influence waned, and her efforts to sabotage Diana's company were exposed for what they were: desperate attempts to cling to a crumbling empire. When it was over, Diana stood at the edge of the precipice looking out over the city. The battle had taken everything she had: emotional exhaustion, sleepless nights, and the constant weight of doubt. But now, she could breathe. Her firm had not only survived, but thrived. They had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. The clients who had once hesitated now flooded in, drawn not only to her success, but to the integrity of her vision. Diana realized in that moment of clarity that the foundation she had built was unshakable. Her company wasn't just a business. It was a reflection of everything she believed in: honesty, hard work, and the unwavering belief that success didn't have to come at the expense of others. Looking back, Diana saw how far she had come. She had confronted her deepest fears, faced betrayal, and taken a leap into the unknown. But more than that, she had proved that integrity and authenticity weren't just idealistic concepts. They were powerful, unstoppable forces that could change the world. The journey had changed her. She had learned that true strength wasn't about overpowering others. It was about resilience and belief in your vision, no matter how dark the days might seem. She had built something lasting, not just for herself, but for those who had stood by her, believed in her, and trusted her vision. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Diana knew one thing for sure. She had earned her place in this world, and she would continue to build not just a company, but a legacy that would endure for years to come. As Diana stood on the rooftop of her office building, watching the city stretch out before her, she realized that this was only the beginning. The road had been long, fraught with obstacles and heartache, but she had come out the other side not just unscathed, but stronger. Her company had grown beyond her wildest expectations, and the world was starting to take notice. But there were still so many unknowns. The business landscape was ever-changing, and with success came new challenges: competition, innovation, and the constant need to evolve. Diana knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. She had built this from the ground up, piece by piece, with integrity and a vision. Whatever the future held, she was ready for it. Her team had become more than just collaborators. They were partners in this new chapter, each one driven by the same passion and belief in their mission. Together, they would continue to push boundaries, break new ground, and inspire others to do the same. Diana's story was one of resilience, of standing tall in the face of adversity, and of never backing down from a challenge. And while the next chapter was yet to be written, one thing was certain: the world hadn't seen the last of her. As she took one last look at the skyline, Diana smiled. The future was hers to shape. In the end, it's not the battles we fight that define us, but the strength we find to keep moving forward.